it sounds bad, but the Oceanic teams literally have no excuses anymore. We've had some great domestic finals. I mean, we have some of the fiercest rivalries. But that last hurdle of going overseas and winning never really has come through.
The C representatives have just manhandled the Chiefs in this last game. They came out swinging in the first series with a 26-minute victory.
Our esports players have been up against it. They're going up against professional players that do this full time. Our players, a lot of the time they're at home in their bedroom. I mean, they're playing part-time. They have university, they have work. These guys really haven't been given the freedom, haven't been given that luxury of being able to dedicate everything to League of Legends and really become that full-time professional player. This year for Oceania, it's finally an equal playing field. It's finally a fair shot. I mean, when you have a look at it, they're in gaming houses now. They've got that infrastructure behind them. They've got coaching staff. They're going to be coming into the Riot Studio on Saturday, Sunday to play those live LAN games that are so hard to emulate when you go internationally. This is really the year that everything's coming together, and the professional esports players in Oceania should be able to take that next step. This definitely isn't going to be easy, but this is the first year that Oceania can compete internationally. This is the first year that they can qualify for the World Championship.
Hello and welcome to the Oceanic Pro League. My name is Michael Hingersing, and this is day 2 of round 1 of 2017. Yesterday, we saw Chiefs and Tatum Mines pick up wins in matches that were frankly closer than many thought they'd be, and today we see 4 new teams hit the rift in 2017. All of them have had significant roster changes since the last split, and there are still a lot of unknowns for this season ahead. So let us get straight to it. Joining me at the desk is our analyst Nathan Mendrix-Mendez, and also star support for the Chiefs. Fresh off their victory yesterday, it is Bryce, Ejim, Paul. How are you both? Are you well? Mendrix, are you doing well? Are you excited for today?
Psyched. I'm super excited for today. I can't wait to see what these teams have on offer, especially as you mentioned with all these roster changes, everything's sort of been shaken up a bit.
And yourself, Ejim, how are you feeling with off the back of that victory yesterday?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shaky win, I guess, to say the least. But like, we pulled out the win, so like, it was pretty good. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see, I guess, mostly today, how Legacy perform with their new roster.
Yeah, excellent stuff. All right, so looking forward, let us bring up the schedule for today. Our first match, we see an untested Abyss lineup who are trying to recover after Lucha's competitive ruling ban, and they are up against Sin Gaming with the long-awaited debut of their AD carry FBI and their NA import Flares. Then, later today, last split's minor Premier's Legacy face an avant-garde team who are keen to prove themselves in 2017. Now, I want you all to settle into your seats. You can get in touch with us via the hashtag IamOPL and let us know your thoughts about the matches and how your team is doing. But before we get into previewing these, I just want to Ejim, yesterday, there was a play which I think everyone was talking about. It is you, MF support, taking a Baron steal. And let's bring up this replay because I want to know if you've been practicing this play a lot in in scrims and whatnot.
Yeah, like, you know about the new Riot practice tool? I've been setting this up so many times. Like, give myself all the gold. Give me these items. The enemy team, we tell them, do the Baron. They're just getting roasted by Jin ulti. Here we go. Bring it in with the E. We kill Silver. We hit the ult. I think in about 2 seconds I die. And like, yeah, I actually die. And the wave that is traveling kills the Baron. That's legit.
I mean, like, was that, how planned was that play?
It's
just like button mashing.
Yeah, it was a really anti Baron dance for like 10 minutes, I think. And then like, yeah, they took it and I just had to do something. Otherwise, we're going to lose the game.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of new this year, aside from this weird meta where there's MF support, is we're playing with a 10-dan system now. Yeah. You were kind of debuting that in OPL yesterday for a lot of people watching. How was it to play in that 10-man system? What are your thoughts on it? Just broadly?
I really like it. I think overall it provides like a lot more diversity in terms of roles. You can target ban out like kind of more play styles, I guess, because you have 2 phases of bans, and I think teams are kind of forced into picking like very obviously showing what they want to do in the early phases, and you have time to counter that with bans and like a second rotation of picks.
Yeah, Mendrix having seen a full round or a full day of play with this 10-ban system, are there any kind of thoughts you've got across? I mean, we saw a lot of diverse champions yesterday. We saw Morgana picked in support. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you yesterday, aside from the Poppy 100% pick?
I was about to be like, Poppy 100% pick was literally what I was just about to say. And specifically the rest of that, there's nothing too crazy standing out. Everything seems to be sort of following that same pattern of we're going to pick up those priority picks early and then look to ban you out in that second ban phase. So if you don't have the support, we're going to be focusing on the supports. If you don't have your mid, we're probably getting rid of your mid. So pretty straightforward.
All right, well, looking forward to today's match. Our first series is going to be Abyss versus Sin. So let's bring up these teams as we look at them now. A lot of changes on both of these teams for 2017. Multiple movements, including Frey coming in for Luch on Abyss. They're also signing a new support with Kuden. And then obviously Flares as well for Sin coming on with FBI and Wizard. A lot of changes all over the shop. Just let's start with some broad themes. What are you expecting from today's game?
Today, I think will probably be more topside focused. I think both of these teams don't really rely on their bot lane. I think Sin are probably going to play topside with Flares. Like, he's kind of the Sin's new Rhymaster. They've always had like one star player that they play towards. So I think Jules is going to be like sitting in his back pocket, and then Seb's obviously going to have to answer the top side.
Absolutely. Mendrix, do you agree? Kind of like broadly, we're going to see some topside play today?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. Another thing I also want to touch on as well is Corky's been seeing a little bit of play as well, and Wizard is known as the River Wizard. He loves to go out there, he loves to go use the roam. So I'd love to see him actually pick up that champion, use the package to get some control in that mid lane, and then use that to sort of fit his playstyle.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of Corky kind of makes it really easy to kind of help your side lanes. Like you go back, you get package, and it's just really broadcast like, okay, I'm going to go mid, I'm going to like QR the wave, and I'm just going to run top lane, and just like they're just going to dive with flares and hopefully get him ahead, I think.
All right, well, let us first take a look at, earlier today I spoke to Seb, the captain of Abyss. I started off by asking him how these new players were settling into this new team. Let's see what he had to say.
They're settling okay. Obviously, our teammates, past teammates like T-Gun and Luch were obviously a big part of our team, but yeah, Frey and Kun are selling very well. We had a bit of a slow start, but we're selling in quite well right now.
For Abyss fans who are going to be missing Luch this year, how does it feel to kind of lose a star mid laner, frankly?
Yeah, we did have to change our style a bit because Luch was a big part of our team, but Frey, like I said before, Frey is selling in quite well, and he should perform well today.
Excellent. And your opponents, Sin, have really bolstered their lineup ahead of this split. How are you guys feeling ahead of today's match?
We're definitely feeling confident. They do have a few imports, or no, just one import. But yeah, their team looks good, but I think we can take them on today.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And best of luck to Abyss today. Mendrix, I want to start by asking you, off the back of that, do you believe him when he says that like Frey's settling in really well? Did he look confident in your eyes?
Of course, they look confident, but everyone's going to have these little bit of nerves that they need to worry about in terms of this is LAN. I think in terms of Abyss on their side, only Kuden's really done LAN himself, so everyone's going to have those little bit of extra nerves that they need to get through, work through. It's natural.
Yeah, and Ejim, I kind of want to ask you as well about Frey replacing Luch. Do you think he's like a substantial replacement?
Yeah, I think Frey is definitely a very good mid laner, and probably one of the better options they had. Stylistically, though, he's very different from Luch. Luch was just like a big vacuum where like he just want to take all the farm, like take your wraiths, take your wolves, and then just go back to mid lane and shove it in, right? And so like I think, especially like you said with nerves coming into play, like playing your first game on a stage and then trying to like fall back on a style that like they haven't really practiced as much because like Frey is relatively new. Like I think they might struggle.
All right, well let us take a look at the guys as they're getting ready and plugging in. Zooming right in on their faces. Get in there. Let's bring up their lineup, shall we? We're going to be seeing their top laner, Pac-Man. Very confident, calm, cool, collected. Seb, their jungler we just spoke to earlier today. Frey, mid lane. He's much taller in person than I thought. He's a giant man. Raid, their ADC. And their newly signed Kuden, formerly of Legacy. How are you guys feeling about this team? They're looking pretty comfortable, relaxed.
Definitely looking comfortable and relaxed. Just sitting there getting into it, and anything that might have in terms of those nerves, as I said, completely natural. These guys are working through it now. They're very new to the whole LAN concept, and just a way to help level up Oceania. It's what we're looking to do, and it should prove to be very a big asset helping us internationally.
It was kind of funny as you like went down the pictures and got to Kuden at the end, and he's just chilling. He's just sitting back in his chair. He's like, oh yeah, this is cool. I've been here before.
Well, I mean, you play support. Kuden's obviously their support.
Yeah.
I mean, how is he as a replacement coming in for Tigon in this?
Yeah, it's kind of the same Luch Frey scenario where like Kuden is a very different player than Tigon was. I'm going to kind of roast him a bit. Like, I really don't like his play style. He's very good at what he does, but he's a very passive player. Like, he's known for his Soraka with the woo, right? So, like, very passive player, very reactive. So that's why I said before, like, I don't think they'll be looking to play bot side. I think, they'll play, like, top side, and the bot lane will be facilitative.
Absolutely, but you got to remember as well. Like, I mean, Kuden Legacy, they were minor premiers last split as well. So
like, he's very good at it, but like I just don't like it. I guess
I just want to jump in there. Do you find it annoying?
Yeah.
When he plays like that.
Yeah.
So to a degree, he's doing his job right.
Yeah, like obvious. Yeah.
Because the idea, if he's going in there, he's still winning games, and you're finding that annoying. That means that he's doing something right.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in the finals if he wasn't good.
Exactly.
Like,
so it is like it's just a stylistic choice of that play.
All right. Well, across the Rift, they're going to be coming up against Sin. Earlier today, I spoke to Juves about how FBI is settling in and how long they've had their eyes on this young ADC. Let's see his response.
So probably about 2 years ago, there was a young kid running around solo queue causing a ruckus, and his name was FBI Best ADC, and everyone knew he was too young to play competitive because there was like little tournaments that went around at the time, and the kid just vanished pretty much from solo queue one day, and everyone was like, no one really like batted an eyelid. 80 carries came, 80 carries gone, and we were looking for an AD for the new season, and we went through challenger list, and I saw FBI Best ADC, and I was like, that's got to be the same guy. Like he was pretty good when he was younger. Like let's just add him and see if he's keen. And then we added him, and it turns out it was him. He turned of age, and we're like, do you want to play? And yeah, the rest is history.
You've also added Flares from NA. Does that mean we're going to be seeing a lot more of a top-heavy style from you guys this year?
So Flares just came from NA. I think you don't get a player of that caliber and not focus topside. Obviously, we're not going to be a one-dimensional team like the previous splits and just focus mid lane or top lane, for example. And so I think, we'll put an emphasis on top lane, but obviously Teleport's a good summoner spell, so we may not only be top lane.
And finally, your opponents, Abyss, they've lost their mid laner Luch to a competitive ruling. How do you think their new lineup is performing?
So Abyss just lost their mid laner, and I think they're going to struggle a little bit early on. So they lost him not too long ago, and they rushed to get a mid laner. And that team was very mid-centric, so that was like our team the previous splits. Well, obviously, we focused around Dry. And I can tell you from experience, trying to break that habit is not easy. Your mid laner takes all your gold, all your farm, and then you just like late game carries. So I think it will take a while for them to adapt. I definitely think like we can we can clean 2-0, but worst case scenario, I'll be happy with a 2-1. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, best luck today, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's Juves there from Sin, the captain there, and saying they're going to clean 2-0 potentially. Without giving away your predictions, do you feel like it's a bit potentially overly confident going into any series, Mendrix?
It's always good to be overconfident, but in that case, I'm feeling he's been a bit too optimistic. I'm sure Abyss have some trump cards up their sleeve that they can use to take him down or take at least one game off them.
Yeah.
I mean, Juice has just always been like that, right? Like that's what he does. Just, yeah.
You don't name yourself after an Italian football club that was banned for cheating and then be like, reserved.
Yeah, real humble, real humble.
All right, well, let us take a look at their lineup right now as they're getting ready and plugging in their keyboards, etc. Look at them. There he is, Juice.
Oh.
He's staring at the camera. All right, well, let's take a look at their top laner. First, we have Flares, newly imported from NA. Their jungler Juves there. In the mid lane, new signing Wizard, also known as the River Wizard. Their ADC, FBI, just aging into the OPL. And their support Rogue, as well, rounding out that team. I'm kind of curious to get your... you've already said that Kuden's style, EGM, in support is kind of more passive. What are your thoughts on Rogue's playstyle in support?
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
He's like overly aggressive, like
He's
Thresh
aggro.
one trick. Well, like he's not a Thresh one trick, but like me, I guess. Like he started out as a Thresh one trick, and he just plays like that consistently. Like really aggressive. I think they do have the upper hand in the bot lane in this matchup. I think they should do well tonight.
Would you agree with that, Mendrix? Do you think it's a bot lane matchup where Sin has the advantage?
I would agree with that there, especially because you can look at Juves to sort of get Flares running early, and then once you sort of break that top side of the map, you can then make your way down to that bottom side. So it'd be great to see if they actually do that and then take advantage of how aggressive their bot lane is in comparison to that Abyss side.
We've already touched on the top lane. Flair's the new import from NA for Sin. Let's bring up a bit of a player profile and then we can talk about his play style. Bryce, EGM, what have you seen from him in when you come up against him in solo queue?
Yes, he's very good. He obviously like import from NA, much bigger region, like different practice, different style over there. And I think in general, from my experience of like international top laners and international players overseas, yeah, they push their limits a lot harder and they do like, I think Flares does really cheeky things. Like OS players are very black and white and like, oh, like we have to back out now, we have to go forward now. He like will stay an extra wave and then like get a cheeky like JCQ off on your mid lane or like get some turret damage and stuff like that.
Yeah, Mendrix, have you seen much of Flares' play?
Not yet, but I've heard the rumors about it, like speaking to Ejim, speaking to other players as well. And one of the things he does is he's really good at is balancing where everyone else is on the map, balancing his cooldown so he can eke out those little bit of extra bits of damage. He said either chip damage onto the turret or get a little bit of extra harass and just somehow walk away free. The jungler tries to walk up there, waste a bit of their time, and they go, he's already gone. What happened? He was just here.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Hashtag IMOPL if you want to get in touch with us for Twitter. We're also running a social media competition right now. You can get in touch with us on Facebook or Twitter and enter in both separate streams of your social media. Which OPL team do you support and why? The top 5 most creative answers win their team summoner icon and a mystery skin, courtesy of Riot Games. Oh my goodness, that was messed up. Oh, my bad. All right, so let's go straight to predictions. Let's get predictions from you guys and also numbers. I want names of who you think is going to win and whether it's going to be a 2-1 or a 2-0. Let's start with you, Ejim.
I think Sin 2-1. I think Flares is going to be like their main player. I think he's going to get ahead early and like they're going to snowball that in. But like I think Abyss probably take a game.
All right, and Mendrix, thoughts? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I feel that it will be Sin 2-0 in that sort of situation. Oh, sorry, not Sin 2-0, Sin 2-1. And the reason why I feel that is because their team seems to be a bit more stable as well in terms of how they got their players in. So that's going to be something that's going to be playing on the minds of Abyss.
All right, well, obviously every game matters in this new system where you can get bonus points for 2-0ing. So it's just for a bit of diversity. I'm going to say Sin, I'm going to 2-0 this on account of Jews being very, very confident. Let's see if I get roasted later on. But that's enough from us here at the analyst desk. Let's throw it over to our casters. It's Spawn and Fish.
Thank you very much, Hingers. I'm Matt Fish Stewart. Joining me is Jake Spawn Tabiri. And you know, the entire desk thinks that Sin's going to take this one, Spawn.
Yeah, but funnily enough, in rehearsal, Ejim was a big Abyss fan, so I don't know what's happened there. A little bit of, going back on his words. Obviously saw those interviews and just thought Juice had him pipped there. But Seb, my man, he's a very good jungler, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on LAN because he's been around for so long, Seb, and I've been excited to see him play. And he's always been held back, and it sounds bad, by the people around him. And I feel like this time around, Abyss has a much better iteration to be able to take that next step.
Yeah, he's definitely been the carry jungler for most of the teams that he's played for, and he's up against Juves, who has been historically known to help out his mid laners back when he had Rymeister on his team. A lot of people on the desk think that he's going to be now, looking towards Flare, see if he can play towards the top side of the map, or is he going to be helping out Wizard? Are they going to play more towards the bottom side? We'll have to see how he's going to do up against Seb.
Yeah, certainly. And, when I look at Sin, I expect them to kind of play a very, old TSM style, where the mid and jungler team up together and go to the side. Because when you have a look at it, FBI and Rogue are such a potent duo, and then Flare is obviously a very good top laner in his own right. So as long as Wizard can shove that lane out, get priority, he's going to be able to go with Juice, invade jungle, be able to collapse into that part of the map. So I'm really excited to see that because that's a very diverse and interesting way to play League of Legends. And we've seen when good teams do it in the past, like the QG Reapers with Doinby and Swift, as well as Snake Esports over in the LPL, they've been able to punish teams incredibly hard.
Well, let's see if Sin are going to be able to change up their playstyle heading into their first match of the 2017 split of the OPL. We are in the first pick and ban phase between Abyss and Sin. Jace, Rise, and Zyra are Abyss's bans. Kha'Zix, LeBlanc, and Camille will hit the bench for Sin. That means Rengar's going to be picked up first by Abyss.
Yeah, and this is so strange because everywhere in the world is giving Rengar a lot of priority in the bans. But we've seen it 3 times now get through in the OPL, and I just think that, it's maybe a little bit misplaced. You don't have to really get rid of Kha'Zix, in my opinion, but it's a little bit of a pick your poison. Maybe they know something we don't.
Which is a surprising because internationally, Kha'Zix is being picked a lot, but not being banned as often as the Rengar. Meanwhile, Sin highly prioritizing their bottom lane here, picking up Varus, most likely going to be the AD carry for FBI, but could still be potentially played in that mid lane, and Rogue will be playing Misfortune as their support.
Yeah, and that's a lot of priority put on the bottom lane, as you pointed out. I mean, that is probably going to be bottom lane Varus. We haven't seen him much mid just because of the potency of control mages to be able to blow up an AD carry at the moment. But in saying that, very good lane. I mean, as long as you have some CC, Misfortune does a lot of the early game damage, and Varus just scales incredibly well.
And this seems like they want to do the exact same thing that Sin have done here. Locking in Ashe, they'll be played by Raid, and Kuden's going to be picking up Tom Kench.
Yeah, so a lot of peel coming out. So far, you know, Ashe has the arrow. They grab TK as well to make sure that they have that pick to keep him nice and safe. I just want to touch on Kuden because, you know, people are always critical of his supportive playstyle. I actually think that if your team is going to play towards the opposite side of the map, I mean, if you've got Tally as a top lane, if you've got Chooches as a mid lane, as he did in the past, I mean, you should play passively. You should know that your part on the team is to, you know, sit back, keep your AD carry safe, and be able to use that utility late game. So I really do think that if Kuden's given an opportunity to play aggressive, maybe he'll be able to take it. But on every team he's played so far, priority has been elsewhere. That changes with Pac-Man, because Pac-Man's a good tank player. Maybe they will look to get Raiden advantage in the laning phase.
Let's see how he's going to be able to play this match out. Mendes made a good point on the desk, saying that even though Kuden does play passively, he gets a lot of flack for it. It does work for his style of play, and it does annoy quite a few supports, Ejim included, admitting that on the desk there. The final pick in the first pick phase coming out from Sin is going to be Lee Sin, a very prioritized first pick during their first pick rotation, but with Rengar being picked up by Abyss, that was not locked in by them. We are into the second ban phase, 2 mid lane bans coming out from Sin. We have Cassiopeia as well as Syndra hitting the bench. Abyss, they're targeting Flares with their first ban. Fiora is going to hit the bench, as well as Corki, which Mendes predicted Wizard might be picking up.
Yeah, it certainly is one of his big picks at the moment. I mean, all Oceanic mid laners really like to take Corki just because you can zoom around Summoner's Rift and do such a great job. However, not going to be available, and he grabs something that's very similar with the shove in the Talia.
Yeah, Talia being picked up. Suits Wizard's playstyle, he'll be on the river quite frequently here. The Rock Surf going to help him out with making sure he's on his favorite part of the map.
And of course, if you don't know what we're talking about by saying Wizard roams a lot, generally would go down about 20 CS in most of the games we saw him play when he was back on Trident, then would be able to pick up kills bottom side of the map. I mean, he's very active in shoving out his wave, sometimes to the detriment of the CS, but he's a big team player, and I like to see that out of a mid laner. I mean, lots of carrier mid laners in the OPL. If you can't go to toe, get somewhere else, get easy kills.
Meanwhile, Abyss, they've completed their draft. They're going to lock in Orianna for Frey in the mid lane. You've picked up that champion quite a few times when he was playing on the Hellions. You're also going to see Poppy being locked in as the top lane pick for Pac-Man. Big tank player. He's got arguably the best tank in the game. He's up against Maokai, picked up by Flares.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking to Swiper yesterday. He said, this is my meta. Well, if it's anyone else's meta, it should be Pac-Man, because he is a very good tank player. However, also plays mages. So, you know, if someone early locks a tank that he feels he can take a mage into, something like that Swain or maybe even a Rumble pickup, Pac-Man can definitely punish. So not a one-dimensional player, has grown a lot in the OPL, and one of actually my picks to watch, because he's always kind of been, you know, overshadowed by a couple of other top laners, but this could really be the year that Pac-Man steps up and helps carry Abyss along with Seb.
It certainly could be, especially now that all the teams in Oceania are playing in their gaming houses, are now all local on LAN and living in Sydney. Pac-Man definitely has had that time to put effort into his top lane and see if that improvement is noticeable going into their first match of the OPL here.
Yeah, it certainly is the case, and I mean, they have such a well-rounded out comp. As soon as you have Orianna, tank, as well as Rengar, that ball's guaranteed nearly to go on the back line. And the fact that they picked up the Poppy themselves to ensure the leap is going to be available. We've seen so many people's days ruined by you not being able to get to that back line. I really do like what Abyss has picked up as a comp. I actually think they've outdrafted us in here quite heavily.
We already seen what good Rengar players could do yesterday when we had Guts being picking up for XL5. We had Shorter Ace playing it as well for Tainted Minds, both having great performances on that champion. And also, like what you mentioned, Poppy ruining the day of Rengar's, and just Poppy in general, the top lane, mostly being first pick. This is the first time I believe we've seen Poppy being picked up during the second draft phase.
Yeah, and it's really weird. Had an opportunity to talk to Swiper, and he said he was confused by the priority on Poppy. He actually thinks there are some champions that do well against it. However, globally has been very popular.
It certainly has been. But for now, before we get on to Summoner's Rift, let's check in with Hingers, who's with one of the coaches.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with General right now, and I want to start by asking you about the top bans. I feel like you guys were trying to ban out Flares. Were you scared about kind of encountering him?
Yeah, we were definitely thinking that Flares was their strongest player, and we just wanted to make sure he was playing on something more utility-based, something more tank-based, just because we're more experienced about that sort of stuff, and we don't have a lot of experience against him. Like, he's a new player, he's coming in from NA, so we just wanted to make sure he wasn't on a champion he could carry on.
And overall, how do you feel like the draft phase went for you guys? Because you picked up Rengar, which is, you've got to feel pretty strong about that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think Rengar's probably one of the strongest junglers right now, so I'm very happy with that. We have a composition that we practice a fair amount of scrims. everyone's comfortable in the champions, and I think it's a pretty cohesive team. So I'm very happy with picks and bans.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, and best luck in the match.
Thank you.
There you go, a lot of respect coming out from Abyss over towards their top lane picks.
Of course, General, their previous mid laner, when he was playing with Parbu in the lineup in the OCS. Great player in his own right, and actually incredibly intelligent. So, yeah, I agree with him. I think they got the perfect draft. I think they are drafted pretty heavily. If you're going to play towards, you know, Pac-Man and Frey and have an aggressive jungler, then picking up that amount of utility out of your bottom lane is not going to be a bad thing.
Well, just checking at the start for these two teams, it seems like Sin have gone for a delayed invade here. Looked like they wanted to go for a blue buff pickup, but immediately getting the heck out of Abyss's jungle. Juve's going to be delayed in starting his first camp.
Juves has just wasted so much time. I mean, right then, Seb did the right thing. He sat mid lane. As soon as they showed on the ward, he went to the opposite side of the jungle because he didn't want to be heavy invaded. But Juves actually not starting the blue buff puts him in a pretty hefty disadvantage.
Yep. He's now going to have to start his red buff all by himself. Lee Sin does clear the jungle fine on his own. Doesn't necessarily need that leash, but it's always great to have.
It's a timing issue. I mean, you can see that he's a full camp behind right now. Rengar's going to be able to power through Raptors. That's one of the reasons that I like him so much at the moment. All that extra golden experience, and you know, it's a strange start out of Juves. He's going to be able to recover. Lee Sin's fine in the jungle, as you mentioned, but it's just one of those things that I wonder what his actual mindset was going into that.
I think we can find out later on after this match, but for now he is slightly behind Seb. Let's see if Seb's going to have any impact on the game before Juves comes online. Only now starting on his second camp of the game, taking our Wolves, moving over towards the blue buff. But we are checking in with the bottom side of the map here. FBI and Rogue being a little bit more aggressive, as we mentioned from Ejim earlier on in the match. Rogue, a bit more of that aggressive support. Kuden, a little bit more passive in the lane. So you can see FBI and Rogue just pushing out that lane nice and easy.
Yeah, exactly right. They're just going to continue pushing up, making sure that they're picking up as much CS as possible, putting pressure on Seb to be down here. Is Pac-Man actually going toe-to-toe with Flair as Seb is in the top lane?
Seb looking to try and get the wraparound onto this Maokai. Does not connect with the boulder strike, and Flares will hide behind his minions.
And that's what they're talking about when they say he's a really good trading top lane, because you see that he trades in the wave, and then as he's walking back, he has another creep wave to make sure that his retreat is guarded. So unless Seb wants to burn flash there, in which case Maokai can just flash in response, there really is no kill threat.
Big creep wave as well for Flares, making him comfortable enough to push it in towards Poppy's tower. Given some time to head back to base. Checking in with the bottom lane again. Ray taking a lot of harassment from this Misfortune Varus combo here. Making sure they constantly push this wave underneath the turret. Juves trying to pay a visit towards the mid lane, but just simply gives a shield over towards Wizard and goes back to farming the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, Frey was playing incredibly far back right then, and Juves just wanted to show himself, make sure he had pressure on the map. He's gone back to his Raptors now. That's an interesting take on Lee Sin. That generally means you have to base afterwards. He does do a little bit of damage at the moment. So we'll see what Juves' decision making is. Top side of the map, definitely covered in ward, so not very many plays up there.
We are in the mid lane now. Oh, back to the top lane with players back. Just trading once again. We were checking in the mid lane just then. Wizard doing what he does best, shoving the wave in constantly against Frey. Talia, a very good champion to do just that.
And that's what we expect, right? We just expect him to continually make a hit turret. And when you have 3 shoving waves, it puts a lot of pressure on. It means that at a certain point, something has to give. Flair's trading really heavily with Pac-Man. That's dangerous, because when you're shoving and trading heavily, it puts you in danger of being ganked. However, Pac-Man doesn't feel like he's equal to the task right now, so he's going to go back.
Hilarious was able to get a recall earlier on against Pac-Man. Use that teleport, get straight back into the top lane, has the Doran's ring with the corrupting potion. Pac-Man completely out of charges for his own corrupting potion. He's going to be forced back to base. Still holding his own quite well in terms of CS. Will finally use his teleport to get to the top lane.
Yeah, and that's a great shot coming out of him. I mean, Makers of a Spectre's Cal against the Maokai. Going to hold him in good stead for the rest of the laning phase. It's very hard to push Poppy out now because of the buckler. And you can see that Seb's sick of the wet noodle fight up top, has actually put himself on the bottom side of the map, see if he can make any action happen down here with Juves.
Juves might actually just run into Seb, but Seb pops the plant. He's able to spot out a couple of camps being picked up by Juves. As he goes back into farming the jungle. A little bit of a lull start to this game. Not as much action as we've been seeing so far in yesterday's matches. Both teams just very happy with farming it up against one another.
Yeah, they certainly are, and this has been one of the quieter early games we've seen. I mean, when you have level 6 junglers like Lee Sin, like Rengar, I mean, sure, they have early game power, but they get much stronger as soon as they have access to that ultimate. You expect them to hard farm a little bit.
still in this bottom lane. Rogue just making sure that he's constantly poking out with FBI, giving Raid and Kuden a hard time.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I mean, when you have a look at how this bottom lane's structured, I mean, Rogue's such an aggressive player, Kuden much more peeling, FBI, as we keep talking about, very young and talented. Raid is a good player in his own right, but you expect the laning phase to be a little bit more difficult for Abyss, and as long as they can stay even-ish with the Ashe, the utility late game should be enough to really influence the rest of the map. As now Wizard runs over a ward, has been spotted. You can see that they're just willing to give priority here.
Here he goes. The River Wizards made his way down towards the bottom lane. Raid and Kuden have been cut off. Kuden stuck underneath his turret. Juice comes in, and that will allow FBI to pick up first blood.
And that's a little bit inexcusable because Wizard did run over a ward, and then at the same time, Kuden had flash available to be able to flash that wall. So running back to the turret, a little bit of an error. It's going to cost them quite big here because the damage will be substantial. And that first turret bonus gold is pretty much for the taking now.
Yep, this turret is definitely going to go down here. Sin already debunking a couple of myths. Juice playing a lot towards the bottom side of the map, but River Wizard still doing what he does best, which is rotating down. You can see the replay once again. Kuden just had absolutely nowhere to go once he decided not to flash that wall.
And that was just really nice out of Rogue. I mean, he picks up the turret aggro nice and early, is able to get his team an advantage. They give it over to FBI as well. And FBI, as I keep mentioning, he's young, he's an exciting new player. Oh, Flares.
Flares flashing over the wall, catches out Seb while he's taking the red buff here. Near blind, I believe that was.
He threw the sapling over, so just good awareness. They knew that they made a play bottom lane and that Juice had to stick around a little bit longer than maybe he would have liked, which means that the Maokai checks the red buff. It's a good heads-up play, and this is, you know, just one of the things that we're going to expect out of the new top laner of Sin Gaming. He's a very good player. And was able to set up that play pretty much single-handed just off good map vision.
So he's got double Doran's ring. Now he's got red buff and returning to the top lane against the Poppy. Flares has already had great impact for Sin up on the top side of the map. Freed up the bottom side for Sin to put pressure onto Raid and Kuden.
And you know, it's funny because we're expecting a lot of split pushing to come out of this guy, and he gets on a team fighting tank straight away. If he can establish himself as a good tank player in the OPL, that will open up his champion pool again because they'll just focus somewhere else, and maybe he can get some games, you know, on the Fiora, potentially even on the Camille as the season progresses.
Potentially. Especially with Fiora being banned out during that second ban phase by Abyss, means they know he's comfortable on that champion. For now, though, Sin have started up with the first dragon of the game. It will be an Ocean Dragon that falls first. Jubes and friends will take that one down.
Yeah, so able to pick up the first blood, first turret, as well as first dragon. You can see why they are so confident. And now that the waves bounce back, Seb feels like he needs to shadow a little bit. So this means the rest of the map is very open for Juice to be able to make a play. I actually really like this start out of Sin.
Big item discrepancies on the bottom side of the map as well. FBI's gone back to base. He has not only a BF sword, but the Berserker Greaves as well, like you mentioned. First blood, first turret gold. Raid just sitting on the Caulfield's Warhammer and a Cull here. Not even the Doran's Blade.
Yeah, so Raid just needs to, you know, be patient, let the wave push back to him, make sure that he's picking up as much farm as possible. Because as I said, we didn't expect them to win this side of the map. Probably would have not liked to have lost this hard. That was more on Kuden's end than Raid's end, however. And being shoved in is completely acceptable at this stage. Juice, however, wants another play down here. Maybe playing a little bit more over-eager towards the bottom side of the map.
Doesn't get anything out of it. We'll go back to base. It's Raid and Kuden just content with farming at the moment. Wizard, he's in the mid lane. Still behind in CS slightly against Frey, but has been roaming quite a lot in this match.
As we said, down 20 CS in 10 minutes. That's pretty much the standard for Wizard. You don't pick him up because he's a great laner. You pick him up because of his team fight awareness and for his ability to make plays around the map. So if you get your team first blood turret blood, and as well as a kill and you know everything else great that happened in that bottom lane, you can fall down as much CS as you want. Your team's still going to be in a better position.
Sin this time around rotating 3 members towards mid lane,
Ooh,
but it's
great
going to
arrow.
be Abyss that try to engage. FBI gets taken down immediately after copying the ball as well as the arrow coming in. Now Rogue's being jumped up by Pac-Man. Juice is going to try and come back in, but he has to flash out immediately. 3 big picks for Abyss.
Yeah, and that's what we said. You know, the utility that can come out of Abyss's bottom lane starts it up with a good arrow, and they're able to get the counter push. This is why Rengar is so feared. We changed him from a single target burst assassin to pretty much an AoE burst assassin, and he jumped in there and tore the whole team apart after Frey's great 3-man ultimate.
And just like that, Abyss, they're able to tie up the gold disadvantage from earlier. 17,000 gold to both teams. We can look at that one more time.
Yeah, one more time. I mean, really nice arrow and the reposition of the ball to bring them all back in. Seb blows them up, and then, you know, Kuden able to get here. Pac-Man even rotated down, which is a super heads-up play out of the young Kiwi. So really well played. I mean, Sin hit hard early, but Abyss showing that they're not just going to roll over, able to open up that mid lane, and that gives Orianna the freedom now to roam around the map as well.
It certainly does. Frey stepping up to the plate here. We already mentioned that losing Luch was a big hit to Abyss, especially because of how much of a high impact mid laner he was. Like everyone was saying, you know, he soaks up a lot of gold, takes a lot of farm and carries in the late game, but Frey not afraid to show that he does have the mechanics that Abyss really need in these team fights. He's now 0-3, has his Nomicon picked up, slightly ahead of Wizard, who's gone for the Sorcerer's Boots first instead.
Yeah, that's just because Wizard, you know, wants to get around it. Ooh, Seb.
Jude's taking quite a bit of damage. Rogue's going to get locked down by the Enchanted Crystal. Arrow Wizards here as well, trying to cut people off. Kuden now going to get jumped on by Flares. Big ultimate coming out from the Misfortune over the wall. Kuden still trying to run away. Jude's comes back down. The last auto attack from Wizard is going to be enough.
But the rest of the team's on their way. Orianna's coming down as well as Poppy, and they use so much at the start of that team fight.
Let's see if they can get the flank they want. Good make it rain coming out from Rogue. Here comes the Rengar. FBI's going to get jumped on and knocked up by Pac-Man. Frey, though, has to get the heck out of there to start things off. Ultimate comes out, only locks down Flare as a Sin. Looking like they still want to fight back. Raid's been locked down. Rogue will pick up that kill. Now Pac-Man's on the run, but Juice is right on top of him. FBI will pick up the kill.
Yeah, and that was a bad ultimate out of Frey. Only picking up the tank meant that the rest of the team could turn around and re-engage. Sin, very decisive in their call. You can see that they know exactly when to pivot. This game is starting to heat up really quickly. I mean, we had a pretty quiet early game, but 9 kills now in the last couple of minutes. This should have been ball on Pac-Man, diving into the team. Instead, it was ball on Frey, and that meant that he really couldn't do anything. Pulls the trigger like now-ish, and just that's not good enough out of the mid laner from Abyss. That needs to be a 3 or 4 man ulti for them to win the team fight.
And we saw him in the last team fight, repositioned to get that ultimate off. But this time around, just left the ball there, didn't throw out one more command attack. Still does get a single kill for Abyss, but Sim gets so much more out of that play.
Yeah, and Abyss had just brought the game back into their favor. I mean, they had just got a huge swing in items, and they read the play well. I mean, getting the Poppy into the back line is half the problem at the moment, but not able to do so with the ball this time around. That was just a simple, you know, miscommunication out of the Abyss lineup.
Still, though, it's only 1,000 gold lead for Sin at the moment. Abyss are by no means out of this one yet. They've shown they can fight from behind too.
And they're really in a power spike at the moment, because one more time, all they need is the Ashe arrow. They actually don't need much of the damage, whereas, you know, Poppy starting to heat up. Orianna on one item has always been strong because of the fact that, you know, not only has offensive capabilities, but good defensive capabilities. And Rengar's sitting exactly where he wants. I mean, Warrior, another Caulfield's Warhammer, is quite big at this stage of the game, so they need to keep pushing the advantage and make sure they stay on top of Sin. You know, with Maokai, with Varus, they're going to scale very nicely.
On the flip side, Juve still sitting on his Warrior enchantment as well. Got a Ruby Crystal. Let's see what he decides to pick up as his next item. Top lane, Flares has his Sunfire Cape against Pac-Man, who has the components of the 2 major tank items. Farmy Cinder as well as the Spectre's Cowl being picked up.
And I like it when tanks do this. I mean, dual resistances at this stage of the game is incredibly important. So we'll see whether he keeps going towards it. Maokai doesn't really do all that much damage to you anyway, so it's not really needed to, you know, invest completely into something like a Spear of Visage. As now Seb wants another fight.
Kuden's coming in for this one, tries to use the ultimate to get on top of them. Will get locked down, but immediately Sin back off. Now, Abyss, they're the ones to try and start up this Mountain Dragon, but Juice wants to go in. It's going to be a smite battle. Let's see who gets it down. They decide not to engage.
Arrow's coming.
Rengar will be able to take it down. Teleport is cancelled by Pac-Man.
That was a strange cancel. Now they're on the defensive again.
Wizard, though, he's been jumped up by Seb. Really poor positioning from this man. Juice can't save him. Seb goes on a killing spree. Kuden will be the sacrifice by Abyss, but still questionable choice by Wizard.
Yeah, it certainly was. It gives another kill over to the Rengar, who now is 3-1-2. That Ashe arrow hit, and Pac-Man was coming in right next to FBI. Because he cancelled, that turned into pretty much a pseudo 4v5 because Flares was much closer, had left that top lane. They still trade 1-for-1, and, you know, in the top lane, Pac-Man has got a lot of priority now. But one more time, you can see that maybe the nerves starting to come out of Abyss. Individually, they're playing great, but that team comms, the important part of the game, looked to be a little bit sketchy early on.
It certainly does at the moment. Sin now, they will have a teleport advantage once Flares' teleport comes back up. You can see he's still being aggressive here against Pac-Man, trying to trade at every single opportunity he gets.
And I'll see whether he builds a wave here, because you can see that they're sending MF up. Looks like they want to start opening up this map. Always dangerous against a Rengar, especially one that nearly has a Black Cleaver and Warrior enchant at 16 minutes. Instead, looks like he's recalling and going to go back to that bottom side of the map. So just an outright lane swap coming out of the Sin lane lineup.
Sin will be moving their Varus as well as the Misfortune towards the top side of the map. Speaking of Varus, FBI, he's been farming up a Storm, about 20 CS up ahead of Raid, has 3 kills as well. Essence Reaver being picked up, in comparison just the components being picked up by Raid.
But once again, I mean, that item spike at this stage of the game really doesn't mean all that much. I mean, sure, FBI is going to be doing more damage, but he's a Varus, he's going to be doing more damage anyway. And Ash really just wants to get the arrow going, because that's an aggressive move.
Yeah, Flara's splashing on top of them. But look at Pac-Man, knocks Wizard off with his ultimate. Raid will throw down the enchanted Crystal Arrow, and it's actually Abyss to get the first kill. Now trying to turn around onto Flara's. Cruden's tanking up the turret with his grey health. Frey is coming down, the wall bang into the wall, the flashes away, and Abyss turn around the play.
And this might actually just turn into an outright base race, because all of a sudden, Sin are on a tier 2 after taking 2 turrets, and they can continue to push. It looks like they will back away, as well as the Abyss Esports members, but Flares just went way too aggressive then. I mean, flashing onto the AD carry when no one else is there, and you have 3 members on the top side of the map, is just, you know, it's a weird call, and they were made pay for it because, you know, they lost 2 kills at this stage.
Pac-Man was waiting in the wings there as well. Beautiful Poppy Slam to get Wizard off of his Rock Surf. They get 2 kills in the bottom lane. They're not done just yet. Teleport's actually coming to the mid lane. Rogue, he's being jumped on, tries to make it rain. Pac-Man shoves him back the wrong way, but will still knock him up, get a lot of damage down. The bullet time will come up, but does absolutely nothing as Seb goes on a rampage. Flores will try to lock down Seb. He gets rid of the crowd control. Big ultimate coming out from Frey. Locks down Juves and FBI. Still putting good damage down. He's going to jump in. Kicks Frey backwards, but Kuda eats it up. Nom nom nom, says the Tom Kench as he takes down Juves.
Yeah, and Juves going over aggressive one more time. FBI now in some danger.
He's trying to run away here. Volley comes out. Not quite enough range from Raid. But still, big trade from Abyss once again. They get 2 picks for that.
And these team fights are getting so scrappy, and I think it is the aggression of Flares. You know, the Sin Gaming new top laner has just been pretty ham, like, is I think the only way you can put it. Seb, 4-1-2 now on the Rengar. Definitely showing how potent the champion can be. And just got to go back to General's draft. I mean, right now, they're just incredibly strong. The mid game was always going to be there. What that means is, you know, some of that late game weakness will be patched up by the fact that they're now starting to accrue a lead.
And although Abyss, you know, we've talked about it many times, they've lost Luch due to a competitive ruling. Very unfortunate for their roster. Did pick up Frey, who is by no means a terrible mid laner. Great player, has played at the OPL before. It's also great that he has General sitting right behind them, making sure he can coach Frey, know exactly what he needs him to do on the team, and help him out adapt to this roster a little bit. And it seems like he's fitting in all right. Has whiffed 1 ultimate so far, but everything else has been fantastic from this Orianna.
Yeah, and it happens. I mean, every now and again you're going to miss an ultimate, so that's not a huge deal. Especially the fact that he's been able to hit multiple people ultimates, like, aside from that. Now, big rotation to the top side. Juice looking for it.
Rengar's popped his ultimate. He is on the top side of the map looking to see if he can hunt
Hunting
somebody
out
down.
Wizard right now.
See if he can catch him out. So far only sees Lee Sin. His ultimate will expire here. Doesn't get a pick for anything.
Lasts for so long, though. I mean, that is such a long ultimate now that it only gets longer as the game goes on. Frey might be a little bit caught here.
Gonna get jumped on by Frey. Juves, sorry, does get kicked back into the team and shoved back by Wizard as well. Big pick from Juves.
Yeah, that's dangerous. I mean, honestly, there's no other way to say it, but that's just a poor play. I mean, you can't clear vision by yourself when you've actually just been hunting the person that ends up picking up the kill. So, you know, mistake there from Abyss. And between all their great team play, there has been some sloppy encounters for them.
They have been trading in the top lane, though. Both ultimates used by 80 carries. Bullet Tide comes out. Ray going to take a lot of damage. FBI picks up the first kill. He's kiting backwards against Kuden as well. Wizards made his way up with Flarets, and Sin get 2 picks.
And, I mean, what are you doing that deep in the lane? You've just seen your mid laner fall down, and they disappear into Fog of War behind you, and they just stay up pushed, and the call was split one more time. They should have burnt Summoner spells and tried to take down FBI before that really happened. Instead, they're kind of running away, they're kind of kiting back, and they run into 2 additional members. And, you know, just when the team comp was coming online for Abyss Esports, Sin get picks everywhere. And now the discrepancy in the AD carries is massive. I mean, 5, 1, and 3, pretty much 2 completed items, as well as components for a third versus not even 1.5. That's 2,500 gold that Sin's AD carry has.
FBI, an absolute beast so far. It's been a pleasure to watch him on his debut game in the OPL. As we saw from Juves earlier, you know, just coming off age. Juve scouted him from solo queue. Team picked him up. Fantastic performer so far for Sin. Hopefully he's able to keep it up for the rest of the games here in the OPL.
Yeah, he's certainly no slouch. And I mean, whilst everyone else was kind of complaining about AD carries, he was climbing to the top of solo queue pretty rapidly. So definitely agree. He's an exciting player to watch. They will even up the turrets, and you can see just how close the gold is at this stage.
It's only about 500 to 1,000 gold difference, slightly in Abyss's favor. 9 kills to 9, 3 turrets to 3, and a dragon apiece. Completely even game between these two teams.
And you have to ask what's going to break first. I mean, whether an Ash Arrow is going to come out, a great Shockwave, or whether the lead that FBI has accrued is just going to be enough to, you know, continue to push this game over the edge. Because whilst we're saying that, you know, FBI is ahead, at the end of the day, he's in a mobile AD carry, and there's a Fed Rengar on the other team with an Orianna. That shouldn't be the issue here right now for Abyss.
That Rengar has his Black Cleaver being picked up now picking a few more defensive items. Morel and Nomicon as well as the Luden's Echo for Orianna, so if they do get their combo down, that's good night FBI. Meanwhile though, Sin going to be taking out their second dragon of the game, another Ocean Dragon for their team.
And this is really nice because they've got a pretty good poke comp, you know, with the threat of volley, with the volley, the arrow that's going to come out of FBI. Interesting call here, teleport coming in.
Does get cancelled by Pac-Man, ultimate being used by Seb as well. Wizard try to cut people off with his ultimate.
Pac-Man's cancelled more ultimates than he's completed, I think, this game. Teleports than he's completed this game. I mean, I understand why he was teleporting there, but I do feel like they can commit to fight still. They're being very hesitant, Abyss. They've actually got a gold lead.
Yep.
And they're playing like they think they're at a disadvantage.
But as always, Pac-Man, you expect him to be that solid top laner? He has been a fairly solid top laner for now. He's contributed quite well in the team fights he has been present in, but he has backed out of quite a few, as you mentioned. FBI now on the bottom side of the map, just pushing up that wave for Sin. Raid actually moving towards the top side of Summoner's Rift. Flares does have his teleport, so again, Sin with a teleport advantage from their Maokai.
And that can be huge, because we've seen some good teleports so far from Flares. I'm not expecting this one to be any different. As you can see, they're still pushing in on the off lane and making sure that they're using that teleport advantage to, you know, apply pressure continuously.
Arrow actually coming down from Raid there. Whiffs, nobody from Sin in range to get connected by that one, and immediately it's going to be Abyss that rotate every single member of their team towards the bottom side of the map. Immediate pings to Wizard to move towards the mid lane to start shoving that one up. Flarers, he's already pushing out the top lane towards the second inner turret and inhibitor turret as well. Abyss now have to continue rotating. Sin are just running them around the map.
Yeah, they certainly are, but they didn't really gain anything there, so maybe a little bit of chip damage on the mid lane. You expect that to fall down sooner or later. It's not a huge deal. You can see that they are now starting to get a little bit more active, Abyss, and stay as 5 people. They need to look to fight.
They've started to stall out the teleport time, though. Pac-Man's teleport almost back off of cooldown after cancelling it, but an ultimate is going to come out from Wizard. Trying to cut people off. Flares trying to get to the back line. Seb's going to pop his ultimate. Frey's getting jumped on. Bullet Tide comes out. Kudo needs him up. Pops to grey health. Keeps his mid laner alive. Now Seb looking to re-engage. Has the Orianna ball. Doesn't connect with anyone but Flares. He gets exhausted and gets the heck out of there. Abyss and Sin just disengage.
But that's actually a nice play. They burnt nothing. Look at the summoner spells. They're all still available on Abyss lineup, and they got the flash out of FBI. That means that next time this play comes out, it will be so much more potent. And good execution. I mean, Kuden, very supportive, saves Frey at the start of that fight, and then the Ash Arrow was on point, and they finally hook up with that combination. They might lose a turret here, but they should still be able to fight when those ultimates are back available.
They already lost that mid lane outer turret, so Sin have a turret advantage for now. Still, even in gold, but they're continuing to push that mid lane. Raid, he's gone back to base. So is Pac-Man, both having to heal up, but Sin should use this time to recall as well.
And this game's a little bit scrappier than yesterday's game of the Chiefs versus Direwolves, but you can see similar trends right now. You know, both teams trying to go towards team fighting, whereas, you know, in the past we would have expected Sin to be split pushing at this stage of the game. Both teams, you know, making little individual errors, but when they've come together in the team play, it has actually been pretty high quality so far. So I like to see that they're leveling up. Seb is still a beast, and it looks like, as I said, this time around, Abyss actually have the people to go with it.
Certainly does. Meanwhile, Raid looking to try and take down his own red buff, just farm up the rest of the jungle. Seb gonna just have to watch as all his gold disappears. Oh, good guy Raid actually gives it over towards his jungler.
Yeah, and you know, this is one of those things that we jokingly say that the AD carry doesn't need to do that much damage anymore, you know, can be more supportive. Definitely the case. I mean, as soon as that Dead Man Plate comes out for Rengar, he's going to be a beast. And right now, they've got an AD carry in the top lane and a Maokai in the bottom lane. They could probably pull the trigger on a fight one more time.
Now very split up. Kuden does have his ultimate. Raid has his Enchanted Crystal Arrow as well. And actually
Ultimate comes out, teleport.
Pac-Man looking to go in. There goes the arrow. Connects onto Juice. Pac-Man's on top of them. Seb's coming in as well, but good flash come out for Juice. Straight into the big bullet tie come out for Rogue. Good kick from Juice too. He'll get knocked out by Pac-Man. Now Flares is in the fight. Kuda's being locked down. Eats up Pac-Man.
Huge shockwave.
Big shockwave coming out from Seb, but it's still going to be the rest of Abyss that are getting locked down. Sid are losing members left, right, and center. FBI still keeping itself alive as Flares is hunting down the remaining members of Abyss. Big trade, 3 for 3.
And Frey just saved that team fight as all the members were running over the top. They actually come out with a man advantage. And then he continued to zone FBI. I mean, if the 6-1 and 4 AD carry can't get into the team fight, they're not going to be able to win it. So hats off to the Abyss Esports mid laner. Definitely has started to elevate his game as the timer keeps progressing up.
Sin, we're looking to try and see if they can push while the rest of the members of Abyss went back to base there, but they're just going to get only a couple of auto attacks on towards that turret. Lots of summoner spells being burnt on both sides of the map. Probably take a look at that one more time.
Yeah, so really nice flash out of Juice here to make sure the tackle doesn't go through, and then they're walking through a Mist Fortune off, and that's just not a good idea. I mean, Juice does go a little bit over-aggressive there, I think, with his kick. Maybe should have saved it, but that's the moment that saves the team fight. As soon as they funnel into this choke with none of their health left, you just see how much damage they take from Raid, who's flashing forward. That's a brave move for an AD carry. I mean, generally you want to go backwards, but he goes past the tank line and is able to come up clutch. So hats off to Abyss. That was a really classy team fight, and it gets them in a good stead for this next dragon.
This has given Frey time to go back to base. Has picked up a Rabadon death cap for himself, so that's a very big Orianna. Already saw what a good shockwave combo can do for his team. And it's going to be Abyss this time around to look to try and take down the next dragon of the game. Cloud Dragon should be taken down.
Yeah, that one's going to fall nice and soon. I mean, FBI's gone back. He's got an Infinity Edge, as well as makings of probably a QSS. Although I wouldn't exactly mind Hex Drinker in this situation. There's a lot of burst magic damage that's going to come out. They've got good positioning around the Baron Pit, but oof, I don't care about positioning anymore. That damage is absolutely out of control.
Juice at less than half health here. Has very little magic resistance on this Lee Sin. Just the Merc Threads and the makings of the Spectre's Cowl.
Huge wave bottom lane. This is a brave call once again. Abyss must have changed their shot calling because it used to be T-Gun. They're racing them and daring them to go for that Baron play. If they do, they're going to lose so much of their base. And you can see that Sin actually coming towards the bottom lane, falling into the trap of Abyss Esports, rotating them around the map.
Looks like they want to go for the fight here. There's the ultimate coming out from Talia. Cuts the teams off. Flares looking for the initiation. Good knockback coming out from the Poppy, stopping all the initiation potential.
Arrow
comes out onto FBI. No Zhonya's for him. No QSS. He's going down, and immediately Juice follows as well as Pac-Man picks up the double kill.
Yeah, and they haven't even used very many ultimates right now. There's a shockwave.
It's going to be knocked back by Pac-Man as well. Seb's going to pick up another kill. That's 3 members of Sin going down, as well as the inner turret.
And this is just the draft of the Abyss Esports lineup coming together, because you saw as soon as the arrows started, they were able to get it rocking, and they start the Time 10 ultimate. They're heading towards the Baron with 3 members dead. Probably going to be able to pick this one up as well.
And that's with Juice. 15 seconds until he responds. No teleport on Flares. But let's look at them play one more time while they take Baron.
So they split up the team, and one more time, Flares goes in. He's looking to be aggressive, but good Pac-Man ultimate means that they're going to restart the fight, and then FBI doesn't flash. Don't know if he had it available or whether it was just coming back off cooldown. And the damage is definitely there, so they've been able to pick up a team fight, they get themselves a turret as well as the Baron, and now hold themselves in good stead of taking game number 1.
Stepping way too far forward there, FBI, and good pull of the trigger from Raid to make sure they can start that fight off.
And one more time, utility is king right now. I mean, I don't even mind if he doesn't go towards an Infinity Edge. I think that you just get the Last Whisper here, and then build a semi-defensive item, something like a Hex Drinker into a Maw, because Raid's not in these team fights to be the big damage. We've already seen Rengar throw himself in there, and when you have a 4-item Orianna at only 31 minutes into the game, you can kind of breathe that sigh of relief that you're not going to have to be the one carrying at this stage. Instead, he does go for the Infinity Edge, and we'll see if that does come back. I mean, he maybe feels like he has to shred the Maokai, who's got so much magic resistance at this stage of the game. But AD carry is a much different landscape than where we were at last year.
Well, you said at the start of that fight spawn that Sin were falling into Abyss's trap. I already mentioned that they've lost Tegan, who was their shot caller. Many different call that time around than what we usually see from them.
Yeah, we generally would have seen that they would have, raced towards the Baron earlier, tried to set up there, but instead they positioned their minion waves really nicely. Now they're using their teleport advantage, they're making sure they're spreading out their Baron buffs, have Pac-Man on one side of the map, have the rest of the team on the other side. Frey probably is going to bounce between the waves. They can't send anyone who's not a mega tank towards him. He just does way too much damage. So I like this setup, making sure they're pressuring everywhere right now.
Actually, Pac-Man's moving between mid and top lane there, as you can see on the bottom side of your map. This will be able to take down the mid lane in a turret. Arrow's going to come out from Raid, doesn't connect with anyone from the side.
Actually, Rogue had to flash it.
Ooh.
So that was a good arrow.
Ultimate's going to come out from FBI. Big whiff of the shockwave from Frey. Seb even using his own ultimate. He's going to jump on Juves on the sidelines here. Locks him down with a bowler strike. Meanwhile, Flair is knocked out of the fight. Rogue going to be knocked back. He has no flash to get away. Seb will pick up that first kill.
And that's without the Orianna ultimate. I mean, that was completely whiffed there. That was a good scout out of Seb. I mean, able to spot Juves on what was a clever flank. Lock him down, so no kick coming out. And then Rogue, as we mentioned, had to burn the flash with the Ash arrow, so then didn't have it available when Pac-Man flashed behind him and got a nice tackle. So right now, Abyss Esports executing on every cylinder.
Flares might be in a bit of trouble here as he's trying to cheat through the jungle. Pac-Man's going to jump over. You can see Wizard, or hear Wizard, at least using his ultimate, trying to cut off the rest of the team. Seb going to be jumped on by Juice, gets slammed to the wall by Poppy, tries to jump away, flashes as well. Big knockback from Flares, saves his jungler, but now he's the one in trouble, trying to mitigate as much damage as possible. Pops his ultimate as well. Wizard even trying to stop the rest of the team. They will keep Juice alive.
I mean, he's still very tanky. And enough is enough. I mean, Abyss going to go back, spend all of that gold that they've just accrued. And, really nice team fights coming out of Abyss right now. They've got themselves 7,000. And finally a QSS scene from FBI, but you have to ask yourself, is it a little bit too little too late? Did he need it in that bottom lane fight?
On the flip side of things, Frey's picked up his Zhonya's Hourglass. That Orianna just gets stronger and stronger, now even more difficult to take down.
Well, he needs a Void Star. I mean, there is a lot of magic resistance coming out. I mean, Locket picked up the top lane. That's a huge shield that's going to go to everyone. And then it just amplifies. So the thing about shields is they're bonus health, pretty much, is the way you should think about them. So they amplify any other magic resistance you have. And you see that, Juve's able to pick up a lot of magic resistance. He's going to go towards something like a Banshee's Veil right now. Even the QSS picked up. So that means that when the shield comes out, it's just going to be so much more valuable.
Can I see Last Whisper being picked up by FBI to go with that Quicksilver Sash. Hex Drinker for the side of Raid. Still doesn't have his own armor penetration just yet.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go back to it. I feel like AD carries just need to accept right now that they're not the main damage sources and probably shouldn't be picking up Infinity Edge when they're against these big tanks. I mean, if he had something like a Maw into armor penetration, he would be in much better stead of being able to cut down flares anyway, because the percentage health damage is just so critical. So I don't hate his build at the moment. I just think that there's much better ways to itemize AD carries than what we're currently seeing.
Checking with the support zone, Knight's Vow actually being picked up by Kuden. And with the Locket of the Iron Solari. Don't have any redemptions being picked up by the support. You can see Rogue going for the traditional Misfortune support route, picking up the Black Cleaver into a Last Whisper item.
So Kunin's going to take percentage of Frey's damage that Frey's tank as true damage. However, he's going to get healed from the damage that Frey deals. And what that means is, you know, if a big shockwave comes out, look for a lot of that health to come back in. You can see that he's partnered with Frey right now because they've got the symbols between them. Best Friends Club. We're seeing this a lot in the LCK, actually. We haven't seen an Oceanic team pick it up yet. I know that a lot of teams think it's good, but they just need to experiment in which situations they want to pick it up. That's from top laners. However, as a support item, I like it out of Kuden. You know, it fits his playstyle very nicely. He's going to be on the back line trying to save people. And hopefully that allows Frey that little bit of extra luxury to overextend and look for the big shockwave.
Seems like it works well for the champion he's playing as well. Time Kench will have the great health, so a nice big heal once he pops out will be great. Raid gonna get locked down here. Ultimate being thrown out by Wizard. Raid has to be a little bit careful. Big ultimate coming out from Frey. Locks two of them down. They're gonna knock everyone back and take down Jubes as well. There's the ultimate coming out from the Ash. Seb jumps on top of the mid laner. Only Flare is left alive. Gets slammed into the turret by Pac-Man. He's trying to do everything he can, but he just can't do enough as Abyss get the clean ace.
Yeah, they're able to clean that one up, and that was just such a good shockwave one more time. Frey should be very happy with himself because, you know, shaky early game really brought it together, and he's going to lead his new team to their first victory.
They're already on top of the inhibitor turret here, Spawn, looking towards the Nexus. The respawn timers are just way too long. And Abyss Esports, it might have looked like Sin were the ones that were going to start the game strong, but they definitely fought back well. And they're going to take game one of this best of 3 series.
And you know, it all went their way. The draft was exactly what they were looking for. They were able to get that priority pick of Rengar. Early game, Jubes was pushed off a buff and, you know, had to go back to the other side of the jungle. See them jumping around on your screen, very happy with each other. You know, he missed one shockwave in the bottom lane, but nailed the rest of them. You got to be happy with that.
Yeah, it's not the shockwaves he missed, it's the one big one that you hit. He had quite a few big shockwaves being hit there. On the side of Sin, they put up a good fight, especially to start things off. Wizard still sticking to his playstyle. Jubes, we didn't see him play as much towards Flare as we thought he was. Still had a great impact in the early game. They just weren't able to keep it up against Abyss.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like when you give away that kind of composition, if you fall behind, the game just deteriorates so rapidly. So they did a good job in the early game of focusing the bottom lane, but the team fight just was always going to be very difficult.
And Abyss played those team fights fantastically to pick up their first victory in the 2017 split of the OPL. For now, though, let's check in with the analyst desk once again.
Thank you very much, Fish. Well, it looks like Jubes was overly confident, and I was wrong to trust him. This is just like yesterday. I was straight chatting to Swiffer. He's like, "Yeah, we got this." And anyway, look, it's not important. Let's start off by highlighting a few players who we really want to talk about. First of all, FBI, despite the fact that Sin lost, played a very, very good game, right? You'd expect that, Egypt?
Yeah, I think Jake touched on it in the cast. Like his itemization, I think could use some work.
Sure.
A lot of CC, like Asho, he got hit by and then he immediately bought a QSS, which is a bit of a meme. Like he goes back, he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, definitely needed like a Last Whisper, and I think probably should have gone for the Bork for like versing like such a big tank line. They had Timekins, they had Poppy, they had Rengar.
Yeah.
But like he did have a very good scoreline, did play pretty well.
All right, well, Medrix, let's talk about flares as well. Is that maintain that 100% Poppy hit rate, which is the most important thing for me in this split?
Well, I was expecting him to actually go for that more carry top laner sort of focus, and I was really hoping that would happen, but then the fact that he kept 100% Poppy made me happy as well. So I'm pretty happy with that, but he just basically did his job properly, decided that he was a bit of a focus in terms of what they decided to ban out for him. They got rid of his Jace, they got rid of his Fiora. So him going to the Poppy, then playing that role really well was perfect.
Well, let's bring up their picks and bans as we have a look at them. Rengar got through, which is kind of, you know, a good
OP, just like instant first pick. Like, yeah.
I mean, is that going to happen every time Rengar gets through? If it's available, that's the first pick, right? It's a massive priority.
Yeah, I think Camille, Rengar, LeBlanc, all those sort of champions, like the other two got banned, obviously, and Rengar was left open. So, like, first picking it naturally, just
is there
very
anything
obvious.
that kind of sticks out in that pick comp for you?
Well, what I really like about it, specifically speaking, is that you do actually have the Orianna as well. So when you do have a Rengar, it's fantastic when you've got something that's like a ball delivery system that falls into it.
You mean
so
Ivan, right?
Sorry?
Oh, no, yeah, the graphic is wrong. Sorry about that, everybody. Our apologies. We are working on
maybe I do, but no, I mean
it's a weird dual jungle system they've got going with Rengar and Ivan. It's very strange.
Liquor was playing what he smite support Ivan in the LCL.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at this first replay, shall we? Because it's a Talia ult. You were talking about her, and it's in the early game, and it kind of leads to this first blood.
That's right. So the big thing that Sin's trying to do with their composition is eventually lead themselves to a 1-3-1. So this is a fantastic start for them to get that early lead, use Wizard and his ability to roam and actually get a massive advantage off that start. But doesn't really end up working out for them because Abyss have this other team composition which is more beefy. If it gets ahead, it's probably going to just brute force you down.
Yeah, as you said, they're looking for the 1-3-1. So like Maokai in the top lane, they put Talia in the other lane, and then they do a mid, and then like Talia is just going to push in and then rotate mid and then just wall people off. And I guess like that's the play you were looking for Sin to get ahead in the early game. Just Talia roam to one of the side lanes, then they got first brick, bot turret, and they shoot snowball.
Yeah.
But like immediately after, they kind of like messed up in the mid lane and then threw it back. Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at this second replay as well. This is an Orianna ult, or is there an Ashe ult that leaves off a
That's right. So it starts this massive team fight, and although Abyss seem to have like a bit of a start here, you're fighting in a corridor. You shouldn't be doing that, and just that MF ultimate just completely shreds through. So the big reason why it fails is because they're fighting in this corridor. It's not big for them. They should be better off in those massive sort of open areas so they don't get destroyed like this. That Frey ultimate really saved them.
Yeah, and like when we talked about players that play well, we talked about like FBI and Flares, but like they lost the game. Like Frey was the reason Abyss won this game.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, he missed like an ulti in the bot lane, but then like he landed like that one, he landed another one in the top lane. Just really big performance out of him, I think. Like he was probably the reason they won.
And that was kind of the worry we had going into this game for these guys, right? Like untested mid laner with this team. We were saying, look, they've lost Luch, who was their star player last year. What's going to happen? And then coming away, you know,
played bloody well.
Yeah, Frey, one true mid laner.
Absolutely showing up. He impressed everyone here, and if he continued to play like that, he's going to be doing so good for the rest of the season.
And I think I'm kind of more impressed with like not just him individually, like how they played as a team. Like they recognize that Sin are going to set up the 1-3-1 and they need to do things early. So like they lost Luch and they lost to their playstyle, and then they just adapted very quickly to this. And when like Sin tried to rotate mid, they just like, okay, no, sack the side lanes. Like Ashe is just going to arrow, Tom Ken's just going to ulti, and that's kind of like what got them in the game, and they just kept doing that.
Yeah.
And, that was the reason.
All right, Mendrix, final thoughts on this before we go to a break.
Frey showed up. I absolutely love that. He was amazing like that, and it was purely because he's a big man. I loved it. So I mean, those ultimates really were what kept them in the game initially, and then just allowed them to close it out.
All right, well, that is Abyss taking off the first win of their match versus Sin. We're back with game 2 right after this break.
River Wizards made his way down towards the bottom lane. Raid and Kuden have been cut off. Kuden stuck underneath his turret. Juice comes in, and that will allow FBI to pick up first blood. And that's Sin this time around, rotating 3 members towards mid lane, but it's going to be Abyss that try to engage. FBI gets taken down immediately after copying the ball as well as the arrow coming in. Now Rogue's being jumped on by Pac-Man. Juice is going to try and come back in, but he has to flash out immediately. 3 big picks for Abyss. Kuden now going to get jumped on by Flares. Big ultimate coming out from the Misfortune over the wall. Kuden still trying to run away. Juice comes back down. The last auto attack for Wizard is going to be enough. Flares trying to get to back line. Seth's going to pop his ultimate. Frey's getting jumped on. Bullet Tide comes out. Kuden needs him up. Pops the Grey Health. Keeps his mid laner alive. Now Seth looking for re-engage. Has the Orianna ball. Doesn't connect with anyone but Flares. He gets exhausted and gets the heck out of there. Pac-Man looking to go in. There goes the arrow. Connects onto Juice. Pac-Man's on top of them. Seth's coming in as well, but good flash come out for Juice. Straight into the big bullet tie come out for Rogue. Good kick from Juice too. He'll get knocked out by Pac-Man. Now Flares is in the fight. Kuda's being locked down. Eats up Pac-Man.
Huge shockwave.
Big shockwave coming out from Seth, but it's still going to be the rest of Abyss that are getting locked down. Sin are losing members left, right, and center. Be careful. Big ultimate coming out from Frey. Locks 2 of them down. They're going to knock everyone back and take down Juice as well. There's the ultimate coming out from the Ashe. Seb jumps on top of the mid laner. Only Flares left alive. Gets slammed into the turret by Pac-Man. He's trying to do everything he can, but he just can't do enough as Abyss get the clean ace.